the Apple Store in Portland, and the Apple Store in Southlake, Texas, also both bedeviled by protesters in the last few days, telling the company to put back on the App Store the app that's called Ice Block, which helps people alert their neighbors about where Trump's immigration agents have been seen operating. The Trump administration told Apple to take Ice Block out of the App Store, and they did. People protesting all over the country against Apple and against Apple CEO Tim Cook for the company caving like that. Put Ice Block back in the App Store. People protested against President Trump as he arrived at the Army-Navy game this weekend. Don't obey illegal orders. No war crimes with my tax dollars. Baltimore says no to tyranny. People today rolled out a huge photo. Look at that. A huge photo of Trump and Jeffrey Epstein rolled out on the lawn on the National Mall just across from the White House as some iteration of the Epstein files are finally due to be released this week on Friday, and as a new Reuters poll shows that the proportion of Americans who believe that Donald Trump didn't know about Epstein's crimes has fallen now below 20%. And his continued every day stepping on new rakes and doing new things that are radically unpopular with the American people. I'm not sure people have quite figured out that that translates to primetime local news coverage in Oklahoma. That looks like this.
Protesters with indivisible Tulsa County say they are wishing for things like a united America, affordable food prices, and peace in Ukraine. Indivisible Tulsa County co-leader Susan Young explained why the organization felt the need to speak out Saturday afternoon.
The economy needs to improve. The affordability thing, although the administration doesn't really like us talking about that, it is a big deal. People don't like being told how many dolls they should buy for their children or what they need to give up for Christmas.
At a speaking engagement earlier this week, President Trump talked about affordability, saying, quote, "You don't need $37 for your daughter. 2 or 3 is nice, but you don't need $37.
I just love the straight up local news reporter, end quote. 2 or 3 dolls is nice, but you do not need $37. At the VA, we've got the Trump administration cutting 35,000 healthcare jobs because Merry Christmas, veterans. That's what Donald Trump and the Republicans think of veterans' healthcare. They are cutting 35,000 doctors and nurses and other healthcare jobs at the VA. Merry Christmas. At FEMA, which has not exactly been distinguishing itself under the Trump administration, ask Texas, Trump is now putting in charge of the key emergency response division there, the Office of Response and Recovery. Trump is putting in charge of that a man who has no discernible emergency response experience whatsoever. But he is a guy who said the election was stolen from Trump not only in 2020, but also in 2016. Now, you may recall, 2016 is an election Trump won. But this guy says that one was also stolen from Trump, even though Trump won it. Now his reward is that Trump is putting him in charge of running response and recovery for the U.S. federal government at FEMA.
Welcome back, guys. When I watched this video, the main thing that stood out to me was how clearly it explains a very basic rule of politics. When you keep doing things people don't like, people start liking you, and eventually you lose power. That might sound obvious, but the video makes the case that Donald Trump and his administration seems to have ignored this lesson again and again. The video starts by showing how public anger towards Trump is no longer quiet or hidden. It's visible, loud, and happening in many different places. There are protests against his policies, protests at major public events, and even symbolic actions like apps being pulled from platforms because of public pressure. These are not just small groups of activists. These are signs that frustration has spread to the broader public. When protests show up at events like the Army New Game, which is usually very patriotic and apolitical, it tells you something deeper is going on. Another important point early in the video is how public opinion about Trump's connection to Jeffrey Epstein has shifted. More people now believe that Trump knew more than he claimed. Whether someone thinks that belief is fair or not, the political reality matters. Once trust erodes, explanations stop working. The video argues that this loss of trust is becoming permanent, not temporary. Then the discussion moves into Trump's approval ratings, and this is where things really start to look bad for him. The speaker does not just say his overall approval is dropping. They point out that Trump is losing spot on the very issues he cares about the most and talks about the most. That's a major warning sign in politics. A politician can sometimes survive low overall approval if they are strong on one or two key issues. But when those pillars fall, there's nothing left to stand on. What's even more damaging is that these approval losses are happening in places where Republicans usually feel safe. When voters in traditionally Republican areas start showing dysfunctioning, it signals a bigger problem for the party as a whole. It's no longer just about Democrats opposing Trump. It's about independents and Republicans quietly backing away. The video then breaks down specific policies that have become deeply unpopular, starting with the economy. Trump often represents himself as a strong economic leader, but the data shows that a large number of people disapprove of how he is handling it. Being underwater on the economy is especially dangerous because voters usually prioritize economic stability over almost everything else. If people feel insecure financially, they tend to punish whoever is in charge. Healthcare looks even worse. The video highlights how Trump's actions have contributed to rising ACA premium costs. Healthcare is personal. When people see their insurance costs go up or their coverage become less secure, they don't forget it. They don't wait for talking points. They respond emotionally and politically. This issue alone can shift elections. Then there's the veterans affair situation, which is partially troubling. Cutting 35,000 healthcare jobs at the VA sends a powerful message and not a good one. Veterans are often used in political speeches as symbols of honor and sacrifice. But when policies hurt them directly, it creates a sharp contrast between words and actions. That contrast damages credibility not just with veterans but with voters who care about how veterans are treated. The FEMA appointment explains might be one of the most telling parts of the video. Appointing someone with no emergency response experience simply because they spotted Trump's election claims sent a clear signal about priorities. In moments of crisis, people want competence, not loyalty tests. Disasters don't care about policies, and voters knew that. This kind of discussion reinforces the idea that ideology and personal loyalty are being placed above public safety. As the video moves toward its conclusion, it focuses on the political consequences of all this. One of the strongest arguments made is that even smart Republican politicians are starting to distance themselves from Trump. In, in politics, distancing doesn't always mean public criticism. Sometimes it means silence, sometimes it means quietly undoing policies or refusing corruption. The examples of governors like Gavin Newsom and Janet Mills show how Trump's unpopularity is influencing discussions far beyond Washington. When state leaders feel confident enough to openly encounter or reserve policies associated with Trump, it means they believe aligning with him is now more risky than opposing him. That's the core lesson. That's the core lesson for the video. Unpopularity spreads. It doesn't stay connected to one person. It affects allies, parties, and future elections. When a leader consistently makes unpopular choices, the damage compounds over time. Eventually, people stop defending those choices even if they once supported the leader making them. What makes this analysis powerful is that it's not based on emotion or insults. It's based on patterns, protests, polling data, policy outcomes, and political behavior all point in the same direction. Policies isn't just about winning once, it's about maintaining public support, and that requires listening, adopting, and something admitting mistakes. In the end, the video makes a very simple but very strong point. Politics isn't complicated at its core. If you groan in ways that hurt people, ignore expertise, and dismisses public concern, popularity fades. And when popularity fades, power always follows. Thanks for watching my video. I will see you in the next video.